Hello, everybody. I think we're live. I'm Dodgy Git. Welcome back to the Dodgy Git Show. We're running a bit late back from lunch. Sorry, everyone. There's a lady there. She's questioning him, so we're going to flip you over and turn up the volume and catch you up a bit. Sorry about this. We're a bit late. I'll catch you up quick as we can.
You watched it. In Module 1,
thanks for joining me, everybody.
You would have heard the evidence of Brent Doherty about the loss of her mother, Ruth. And at the outset of this module on the 5th of October, you would have heard the evidence of Katrina Miles, who lost her father, Gerard McLaren, 3 years ago, in fact, this month. And if you continue to listen to further modules, you'll hear stories of further bereavement that Her Ladyship has invited to be told.
Where shall I go on the screen? I'll put myself
the pain
up
and
here.
the distress that families feel. But one of Miss Miles's points that she told us about was a galling juxtaposition of being told on the 18th of December 2020 that her father, aged 67, was going to die in the coming days from COVID.
Shit.
And that he died alone. His time of death is not known. 5 days later, on the 23rd of December. The juxtaposition that she told us about, that in her words was sickening, was that on the 18th of December, there were one of several Christmas events in Downing Street and around the area to have taken place that month.
Remember Christmas that year?
This particular event was a wine and cheese party.
Cheese and wine evening. Sorry, mate, can't go. Why not?
Meeting.
Don't like cheese.
Do you understand, and on behalf of the bereaved, really understand the idea that many of those who were denied the possibility of saying goodbye to loved ones,
of course he does,
whilst at the same time those making the draconian rules were to be seen to be flouting them, is, as Miss Miles told us, galling and sickening.
Or sickening, like.
Do you understand that?
Of course I do. What do you think I am? Fucking idiot.
The short answer is, as I told the chairman of the inquiry, yes, I do understand people's pain and people's offence, of course.
Yeah, of course it does.
You see,
fucking said that how many times?
Sadly, her experience and that of her family is far from unique.
Or we go musical move around the screen.
The revelations of the unlawful parties and gatherings in Downing Street have, as Her Ladyship has acknowledged this morning, compounded the distress and the grief felt by families who were denied the opportunity either to say a final goodbye, or to host a wake, or to host a funeral for their loved ones.
Wonder what this woman thinks about my crisis in Ireland. What do you reckon?
As you tell us you do.
I mean, you just speak so proudly and strongly about that issue.
Thank you. I've
allowed it to
extensively tried to explain
you ever tried juggling 1,400 balls all at once?
About and why I think
whilst people are moaning and pointing you elsewhere
in Downing Street for a very long time and very hard believed that they were working within the rules at the time. Though, as I say to you, to those you represent,
you, me,
and again
everybody,
to money, I understand fully the point that you are making, and
yes,
I regret it very much.
What, that she answered the question?
It's important to note that by the 18th of December 2020, there had been 86,000.
You had not asked me out to lunch, like.
COVID-related deaths.
Therefore, I'm going to have a negative opinion about it from now on.
I'm going to suggest is not a matter of hindsight. It was plain that the country
love that accent.
And that those who were bereaved were in extreme pain and distress. Could you have done more to stop it?
To stop the pandemic.
The gatherings, the Partygate, the wine and cheese
well, this is it. Which bit is she going on about? Because there's no point fucking generalising which bit.
I had no knowledge of the event on the 18th.
That was not my question.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Could you
what
have done
bit
more
of it
to stop it?
To stop what is it? What is it? What's it?
Trouble was as
what's it? Barry from fucking admin.
People
fucking come on.
Hard in,
Mr. Johnson, I'm going to
try and manipulate you to make you sound like a bastard, but you're not really, and everybody fucking knows it. But we're going to fucking.
Could you have done more to stop it?
What is it?
I think the answer
Please
to that
tell me what it
is
is
that, given what I knew at the time
about
what was
it.
going on, the answer to that is no.
Sausages.
But what I possibly should have done is issued a general instruction to everybody to be mindful.
Be a bit more mindful of things like
the rules. And
don't
how
be
things
going
work here.
spitting on your
I think
neighbour.
one of the WhatsApps that was earlier quoted by the
Welcome to the
Council
Dodgy
for the
Kit
Inquiry,
Show,
that's
115 live and
That
direct
WhatsApp
from
was
the
dated almost
UK.
exactly 1 year later on the 17th of December 2021.
Ms Campbell, you need to move on.
I'm
You've gone
moving
beyond my permitted
Yes.
questions already.
You're fucking
On
pissing me
the,
off now, love. You're asking a bollocks
Keeping
question.
on
Fucking
the theme,
move
if we
on with
may,
your
of
bullshit.
perhaps not doing quite enough, may I return to the issue of your communications with devolved administrations, and you touched on this yesterday. You told us why, in your view, Cobras at which the leaders of the devolved administrations attended were not working, and we heard about the concern of leaks and so on.
Who
But
leaked
you
where?
knew
Was that you?
when
I told you
Cobras
to
were
mop that
stopped
up
in
when
May
you've been in the
2020,
What are you going on about?
that left no formal means by which you could meet the leaders of the devolved administrations in the middle of this global pandemic. You understood that, didn't you?
Yes,
I
that
don't
you
think
lot
that's
are
quite
arguing
true. There were-
amongst yourselves.
there were
You can't
obviously
fucking,
plenty
you
of
literally
opportunities in
can't
which I
fucking
could,
make up your minds
meet
one way or
the
the
leaders
fucking
of
other.
the devolved administrations.
Fucking hell.
Had excellent relations
Devolved.
with Michelle.
Is that like
our
Wales
colleague
speaking
Foster.
its own language and
But
taking over the
as
benefits
the
shit?
inquiry
right,
has
yeah?
heard,
And the
we tried
driving
to
licence
split the labour.
crap, yeah?
Well, in fact, the
Bollocks,
decision,
isn't it?
if you call it to split the
I'll just tell you
labour,
this, like, if
and
you
the
fucking give us that
consequence
one,
of it
give us
was
that
that
one. I
between
want that
May
one. I don't want
and
no other
October,
one. You give me
September
that one or
2020,
not.
you didn't have any
Nothing.
direct
There's no deal if you don't
meetings
give me that
with the
one.
leaders of the devolved
I want that
administrations.
fucking
That's
toy.
a fact.
That's what's going
Well,
on.
meetings
You don't
themselves
fucking
are
sit
quite
there or
difficult.
fucking...
Well, but the point that I'm making to you, Mr. Johnson, is that the point of stopping the Cobras and replacing them with Four Nations calls at which you would not be present nor participate was a deliberate decision to manage the devolved administrations.
It was my judgment that the DAs, with whom we had excellent relations, and I think that overwhelmingly things worked well across the UK. But I thought that the CDL was well placed to deal with them, and he did.
So the answer to my question that it was a deliberate decision is yes.
Yes.
And it was deliberate because we've heard yesterday it was, in your view at the time, optically wrong. It was, as you told us in your statement, more importantly because you, in that way, would not be communicating directly with the First Minister of Scotland. And it was deliberate, I think, as you told us
Was that
yesterday, in
fucking
order to have a
surgeon at the
mechanism that
time?
would avoid
Couldn't communicate
leaks
with that
or-
little
or
boy if you
so-called
tried, could you?
divergence. But
And who's that
there
thing
was
that's
an
in there now that
opportunity,
don't want to fucking pick
wasn't
the
there,
book up and fuck
for
where
some
the
forms
fuck?
of what you
How
call
the
integrated decision-making and direct communications that was, as you told
Where's
us
this money
yesterday,
been
in
going?
hindsight, desirable. But you opted not to take it. And that was the Joint Ministerial Committee. Do you agree? You opted not to take it deliberately.
I think the problem with and I remember we covered this yesterday. The problem with that particular approach was that it was still vulnerable to some of the weaknesses you've just mentioned.
The benefit of that particular approach is that it would have been an independent stream, a committee chaired by you, in which you would have met and discussed with the leaders of the devolved administrations the great crisis that this country was facing at the time. It may have been constitutionally weird, to use your word from yesterday.
Yeah, but they
or
could have
perhaps even
also
imperfect,
called him.
But it was an
Couldn't
option
they?
available to you.
They could have
wasn't it?
done, but were they heads of
Yes, that's certainly
liberal
correct.
sort
Though I
of
want to stress,
government
I think
sort
that
of set
the
up? Sort of,
overwhelming,
we look at it that way.
result of the-
Yeah, communication works both ways. Yeah, you can't just slightly shoulder fucking
cooperation we had
oil
with the
responsibility.
very productive.
Yeah,
and
you want to
well-made.
know something,
Your
pal?
evidence
Fucking
yesterday, Mr.
talk
Johnson,
about
was
it.
that perhaps you should
Ask.
have done more on reflection.
There's lots of people that could have done
I think
more,
what
aren't there?
I said was
Yes,
that,
there are, aren't
I
there?
would like what we need.
Yes, you
is some
should have
sort
done,
of,
shouldn't you have?
leak-proof
Yes.
integrated system. That's the grail.
Yeah, you ain't got a
surely
fucking
what you
procedures
needed
manual.
was better forms of direct communications with the leaders of the devolved administration in an environment that best benefited communication across all of the devolved administrations.
I think we had.
What's the best
excellent
way of
communications across
communicate?
all
What's the
of
best way of
DAs,
talking?
and I think
Wells
that,
talking to everybody. Maybe
the-
fucking talking, but he could be screaming and shouting and
overall
asking everybody
performance of the
everything.
UK
But he's
in the
getting fed
pandemic,
fucking bullshit, isn't
as
he?
a single entity was
Yeah, getting fed
remarkable,
bullshit
and
by
every
fucking
part of
people that
of
are on the
UK
other fucking side of the house
played
and want to fuck him up, right?
An important part in the
If we
effort.
tell
You
him
look at it,
this, and
there
he'll
was
say that, and then we can say that about him, right?
a huge
Yeah.
amount of joined up work going on across the whole.
Fucking Labour's so fucking crap.
What
It's
credence
unreal.
then do you give
What
to the
credence
complaints
do you put?
coming from
Did
the
this-
leaders of the
did this
devolved
lady have any,
administrations, and I mean across
family
the board,
members,
not just in Northern Ireland, of a high-handed, incommunicative approach from Westminster?
Well, I don't recognise that version of events.
So, just to be clear, you reject the idea of a high-handed, incommunicative approach by Westminster as complained about by the devolved administration.
I do, and I think
that's why they're
had
devolved.
a huge amount of contact
Because they fucking can't
between
even fucking
Number
agree
10
amongst
and,
themselves, you twat.
and the DAs.
There's another
between,
one.
Central
Get her
government
off.
and the DAs, and
Get her
every
off.
effort was made to
Next.
bring along everybody together.
Get her off.
I'm going to move on, if I may.
You got
then,
fucking
to
shit
what you
questions,
suggested
love. You've
in
been
your
spending
statement
all day
was a
spending
way
all
in
that
which we could
money
have
on all
brought
them
everybody
little
together,
girlies
and
there,
that
and
is
you
your
fucking come
proposal
up with that
for a
fucking
pan-UK
try.
Civil Contingency
off.
Act. Although that is the position in your statement.
Well, it might be, because that's what I
should we
fucking wrote down, you
understand
stupid
that your
twats. If you
updated
want to ask
position
me the
is that there
fucking
are
question
powerful
again, the
arguments
fucking get the
against that
same answer,
proposal?
you fucking twazzle.
I've noticed in the course of these excellent hearings and the
Well, they are
discussion that's
excellent
gone on,
here. It is a
that,
discussion.
people think that the CCA is not the right framework. I'm listening to that. I think that maybe something could be done under the 1984 Public Health Act, as I think I said yesterday. Somehow or other, I think we need to recognise
Public
that a
Health,
pandemic
1984.
presents a particular
Get it
problem
printed.
for the whole of the
Read it.
a cross-boundary problem for the whole of the UK, and that there needs to be some sort of a way of making sure that our messages are united. That was the point I was making.
Well done, Boris.
And
come on, get your ass into gear, mate.
I'm sure the inquiry will attach whatever importance to this it thinks is right. But I felt during the course of the pandemic, occasionally, that messages were being blurred and people were being confused because of a succession of press conferences from different parts of the UK. Now, I may have been super sensitive to that, but I was getting.
That's why he did press conferences
Time permitting, I'd
to
like
come
to
out
ask
and
you some
say we are
questions
on
about
this
that at the end,
page
but just
and this
dealing
is
with
where
the
we're
issue
at,
of
and you will all
pan-UK
do it now.
Civil
Bam.
Contingency Act. You obviously
Because
now
everybody
realise
was
that your
fucking
proposal
around
for such
like this lady
pan-UK
and the
Act
geezer
achieved
before asking
relatively rare
questions.
cross-party unity in
The
Northern
fuck-
Ireland against that proposal. In fact,
She's
it was the united
politically
view that there
and
is a
fucking
need
media
for
driven.
bespoke and
Yeah?
devolved level response to the pandemic to take into account each administration's
Why don't you
socio-political,
spend your time,
landscape.
love,
And
sorting
you will
out
surely
your
agree,
fucking back
Mr.
garden?
Johnson, that given the regional and indeed significant geographical differences, particularly for the north of Ireland and the epidemiological reality of the island of Ireland, that any pandemic response must allow for regional and
What, all this
flexibility and
European
divergence.
fucking goings on, fucking in the south bit,
Yes,
yeah?
I see that
Yeah?
argument. I think we've had quite a lot of discussion this morning
Look what he's done to the
about
place.
the downsides of regional divergence and
My
the
goodness
downsides
me.
of different parts of the country taking a different approach. I think that was there was quite a lot about that this
The
morning.
discussion this morning focused on the difference between Devon and Cornwall and the West Midlands or further north.
Yeah.
I'm asking you questions on behalf of the citizens of the bereaved families of Northern Ireland. Do you
right,
not
okay.
agree that particularly when it comes to the north of Ireland, on the island, that there is a need to recognise the particular geographical and regional features
Yes, I
of
do.
that place?
Full stop.
So when it comes to
Just
Northern
say,
Ireland,
yes, I do.
Clearly you're
Full stop.
right. There's we have to take account of the
Boris, shut up.
greater epidemiological
Of course we do,
unity of
yeah.
the island of
Yes,
of
full
Ireland,
stop.
and what you
Next
say
question. The
has
rest of
force.
it's fucking wasting time.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. You said fucking yes, and
I
that's
still
all in
think
it.
that there's
Boris, stop waffling your gums, mate. They go to bumpity bumpity bum bum bum.
DAs. I think
Look, you're like a fucking, you're like an American car suspension from the
of
70s, mate.
course.
You got no shock absorber, have you?
The
Just keep fucking
suggestion
going up
of
and down.
unity and of an integrated approach led
Come
by
on, no,
Westminster,
man.
be it either written in statute
Who
or
masturbated?
achieved by more meaningful and direct
What?
communication, must assume, mustn't it, that Westminster is capable of real leadership, both in public and behind closed doors, and it is capable of taking
Boris the
timely and
porno car
proportionate
spring.
action in response to the pandemic in all corners of the
Boingy,
UK.
boingy, boingy.
and indeed, that's what Westminster did. And I remember vividly going to Northern Ireland in early 2021.
Yeah, but
and
Northern Irish were
seeing,
being polluted by all the people that were
very,
being
very much
polluted from the south.
the vaccines were being rolled out in Northern Ireland than they were
Geographical
in,
influence on the fucking
thank
dirt
you for
that
saying
was
it, but I've
coming
got to say it,
across,
than they
right?
were over the border in the EU. And there are reasons for that. And I think that
Mr. Johnson,
Westminster-
again,
Mr.
Westminster
Johnson,
approach
shut
that
and
you've
stop bumping
deprecated,
your fears off
led to
your fucking
significant
chin,
benefits
like.
for the people of Northern Ireland.
does it follow from your agreement with that suggestion that you would not countenance binding the devolved administrations to a one-nation approach led by Westminster that flip-flopped, dithered, delayed, exercised
No.
indecision and or poor
I
judgment?
don't think I agree with
Oh,
you.
I had wading trainers on.
Divergence and clarity in messaging
They were
is
cross.
something that you touched on, and my lady, it's my final topic.
They were
You
flip-flops, they were
blame
cross.
divergence of the devolved
I
administration,
shouldn't
some
say
getting more
us.
blame than others, but you blame that divergence and differentiation of approach for the lack of clarity in messaging.
Oh dear.
And you know that the devolved administrations and the leaders who have provided statements to my lady
Yeah, the
don't
incompetence.
necessarily agree with you.
That's because
That
they're
the concerns
incompetent.
raised by Paul Given, to take one example, is that if there is a need for divergence across the four nations, the communication around it simply needs to be managed.
Yes, there you
This was
go.
something that was not done well at the early stages of the pandemic. The Prime
fair
Minister
enough.
tended to speak as though he was speaking for all four nations rather than giving space to the devolved administrations to manage communications. And my lady
What
has
do you
heard
mean by
a great deal of
communications
evidence
then? With him or
about
with
England-focused
yourselves?
data
Within
being
your
cited,
own
about an England or even
systemic
London-centric
fucking
approach
flawed
being
fuck up?
adopted by Westminster. To borrow the words of Professor Henderson, if you choose not to be clear in your messaging, Mr. Johnson,
This
do you
Bigfoot's
accept that
mate.
that's your choice?
I think the issue was that within the UK and accepting the particular issues raised by the island of Ireland, it's a single epidemiological unit. The trouble was that we were, from time to time, and we mustn't exaggerate this. From time to time, there was a dissonance in the message. I think that when message was so important, it would have been ideally, we would have had complete coherence, because I think sometimes people found it hard to follow. Couldn't see why one area was different from another.
Was a reason for that confusion to the extent that there was confusion?
Won't be a minute.
Because of your government choosing a lack of clarity in message and not respecting the clear and giving a clear understanding of the need for regional differences?
No, I think the reason was the difference in the messaging and people being confused as to what exactly they were being asked to do.
Thank you, my lady.
Thank you, Ms Campbell. Ms Harris. Now, if you look around the pillar, Mr Johnson, Ms Harris is in the back.
Good afternoon, my lady. Good afternoon, Mr Johnson. I appear on behalf of Covid-19 Bereaved Families for Justice Cymru, representing bereaved families in Wales. In the time I have available, I'd like to ask you some questions, again about relations between the UK government and the Welsh government this time, and including some questions relating to the different approaches during autumn of 2020. I apologise in advance that there is some treading on ground which has already been covered. I will be approaching matters from a obviously Welsh government perspective. First of all, with regards to coordination and decision making between the four nations, and I'd like to ask you a question about the approach to the arrangements for the four nations to communicate with each other and to seek to reach agreement on the way forward. First of all, I'd like to refer to a passage in the report which has been commissioned by the inquiry from, as has been mentioned, Professor Henderson. And this records that at the early stage of the pandemic, there was praise for the way that intergovernmental relations were conducted. And the report cites Mr Vaughan Gething, Health Minister for Wales, on the 10th of March 2020, saying about COBRA the following: "I don't always agree with Matt Hancock, and I certainly don't always agree with Boris Johnson. But during our COBRA calls, there has been a genuinely serious and grown-up attempt to go through issues and to reach agreement on finding the best way forward, the best way through." That's what he said. And the report then goes on to say that by September 2020, enthusiasm had waned, and it was suggested that an absence of four nations meetings had not been helpful when it came to clarity in communications. My second point of context for this question is that we know, of course, as has been mentioned, COBRA did not meet at all between the 10th of May and the 22nd of September 2020, and that, of course, included the period when the UK as a whole was coming out of lockdown. Having gone into lockdown together, it included the time, that period included the time when the UK and, of course, the four nations together were coming out of lockdown. So bearing that in mind, my questions are: do you agree that the type of endeavour that Mr Gething describes in the quote, i.e. genuinely serious and grown-up attempts to go through issues and reach agreement, do you agree that that is what was needed between the four nations during the pandemic? That's the first part.
Yes.
And the second part of the question is, do you agree, and I think you may have indicated your opinion on this already, but I'd like to ask you for any further reflections on the point, do you agree that in order for there to be the best chance for that type of engagement having been sustained throughout the pandemic, that there needed to have been different arrangements after May 2020 to those that were in place at that stage? And I'm not asking about changing the responsibilities of devolved nations. I'm asking about the machinery for interactions, given the framework that we have.
So I think the answer is yes and then no. If
basically.
Questions.
Well done, Boris.
In the right order.
There we go.
Yes, you have got my questions in the right order. Yes. And your answer no is to my suggestion
Boris,
that what was needed in order to sustain that kind of serious and grown-up attempt type engagement did not need, as has been suggested, a more predictable pattern of engagement with the Prime Minister for the devolved administrations than existed with the arrangements that were in place.
Look at him.
I don't think it did. I think the UK effort was
welcome to the remarkable, and we got another jar of fucking
divided us. I have excellent relations and did have excellent relations with Mark Drakeford. I know he always wanted to have more meetings, but I did believe that Michael Gove was doing an excellent job.
Don't believe
and I believe that Mr Drakeford recently told Mr Gove that actually he thought that the collaboration had been very good.
Got a collab online,
in Mr Drakeford's evidence, he has said that there was a vacuum in that there wasn't the possibility of speaking directly to the Prime Minister
Well, let me walk
sufficiently,
the dog all day.
and he's referred to the
Always
need for a
bullying me.
regular checkpoints with the Prime Minister. Would you not agree that had there been a greater opportunity
Would you
for
not?
that to happen,
Would you
then
not
that would have meant
agree?
that
I
it
hate
would have been
things. If
more
you're not
possible and more likely
agreeing,
that differences could have been ironed out,
oh, it's all
and there could have been a
backwards
more
double
coherent
talk.
and coordinated
Fucking does
approach
my noggin
forged
in,
between
where
the four
it's all
nations.
generic
think
as
that
well. It's
the-
copy and paste that shit.
Every Prime
Fucking
Minister would like to
legalese
do
crap.
much more
Yeah.
the whole time. I had to do whatever I could to fight COVID. I thought that that the system we had going was pretty good, and and I felt that
Was he like Hong
the
Kong
Chancellor Dr.
Fooey,
Lancaster
like number
was
one
doing
super
a
guy,
good
or
job of
what? He was
interacting
that
with
Hancock. I
with
think
the
Hancock
DAs. If I
thought he
felt
was
that
Hong Kong
wasn't the
Fooey,
case,
didn't he?
if I felt
Yeah,
that there was a
I reckon he
serious
did. I reckon he
breakdown
did.
of relations
Hong Kong Fooey, number
between the
one
centre
super
and,
guy,
and
man.
the DAs,
Oh, hang
I would
on,
of
I'm all
course
over
have
Boris's fucking
intervened, but that
chops.
didn't
Let's move
happen.
the fuck out of the way. No, let's stay there.
So
No, we won't
to
move around. No, we
summarise
won't
then,
stay
Mr
there.
Johnson, you evidently felt that the arrangements that there were in place
Probably felt his
were
bollocks a lot. That's
sufficient
probably about it.
to promote
Tickle his
a
fucking
forging
tackle in the.
of a
What the fuck shall I
coordinated
do?
four
He's
nations
thinking.
approach.
Let's
I
stick me
think
in the
that's your
fucking
indication.
bush. Look, let's stick me in
I
the.
think that within the limits of what was going to be politically realistic, given the prerogatives of the DAs, I think that that's entirely right.
And you're aware, of course, that that's not a view that is shared across the devolved administrations.
Well, I'm as I
think
said to
so,
you just now,
I'm not sure what the
not
fuck they
certain
think.
quite how strongly your point is echoed. I think
Yeah.
actually I've heard that Mr. Drakeford in particular feels that the level of cooperation
I've heard that you're a right goer.
was good.
Well,
Is she like
Mr Johnson, that's
you
not
when you
evidence that's
come
been
out with
submitted
crap like
to Module
I
2
heard you
in this
were out a
inquiry,
week.
and that is certainly not consistent with the written evidence that's been submitted on behalf of Mr Drakeford. I'd like to
Oh,
ask
right, I
you
haven't read that.
about the phrase that you used and the
Fucking
point that's made
biscuit in my
in
tea,
your witness statement, where you stated it's optically wrong for the UK Prime Minister to hold regular meetings with other devolved administration ministers. This, of course, has been highlighted previously. It is a statement that you made, not in a. It's not in a WhatsApp message, or it's not in somebody's diary, not intended to be published. This is in your witness statement.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree that as a Prime Minister in the time of a pandemic public health crisis, that you should have decided on what were the appropriate arrangements for consultation with the devolved administrations solely on the basis of what would be best to further the aim of an effective response to the pandemic, and not your views about optics, that optics should not have formed part of that decision-making?
Well, I think that, that
yeah.
was the reason we did it, because I think that the Chancellor Dr. Lancaster was well placed to conciliate, to bring people together, and to get on with explaining and coordinating the position.
I understand that that's your view, Mr. Johnson, but with regard to the statement about optics, it can't be right, can it, that optics are a factor when deciding on what's the best setup for engagement with the other devolved governments during a pandemic?
I think
I agree with that.
I think my considerations were the risk of, to be absolutely frank with the inquiry, the risk of pointless political friction and grandstanding because of the well-known opposition of some of the DA administrations to the government, and also to avoid unnecessary leaks. And I thought that the way to minimise divergence and tensions, actually, and this, you can quarrel with this judgment, but I thought the way to minimise divergence and intentions was to take the temperature down and to have business-like and practical meetings between the CDL and the DAs, and that's what we did. And I think by and large it was extremely effective.
Thank you. I've heard your answer, Mr. Johnson. I'll move on to the next question, and I'd like to ask you now to address, please, how the UK government regarded the Welsh firebreak, which was in place from the 23rd of October to the 9th of November 2020. The first question is, when the UK government was informed by the Welsh government of its plan to enter a firebreak, which is, as we know, a
so that's
short
the Welsh
lockdown,
government tell him what to
did
do
this
when actually
trigger
he's
any
the one in
consideration
control.
by the UK government of alignment of England with Wales, by which both nations would move forward together to a lockdown at the same time? And that's bearing in mind that the UK government announced a national lockdown for England on the 31st of October, so only a few days later, the duration of which was 4 weeks to the 2nd of December.
What hair's she trying to split there?
I can't
Because there was consideration given, and it was said, well, you can do what you like, pal. You're a devolved government. Make your own decisions.
Welsh
Yeah?
when I was informed about it.
And they're still umming and ahhing, so he has to come on the telly and tell them what they're all doing. And then they go, oh, we're confused.
Do things together.
No, you're creating your own confusion and your own division. Yeah? Devolution ain't no good thing, in my fucking opinion.
And
you're just being racist.
That's why we went for the option that we did.
Was there any thinking that it would be better for both nations to be acting in a coordinated way together?
The whole idea is, what the fuck does it matter?
I'm sure that we would have. I don't remember.
Don't matter what person is stood on what part of the fucking planet, whether they're on holiday at work or decided to build themselves a mud hut or not.
Fire breaks, lockdowns, and intensifying tiering, and all the other things that we've discussed today, and that might have meant England and Wales acting together, or it might not. But I'm certain that would have been. You're right to make the point.
Yes.
That would have been one of the advantages had we chosen to go that way. But we didn't.
Right. Now, one of the points that you've made in your witness statement is that you can understand why Wales decided on a firebreak, as the incidence in Wales was high and tiering was not working well.
So why did you ask the first question, you melon?
You go on to state your view that the Welsh firebreak was not effective. You say it doesn't seem to have made a difference in Wales.
Right.
So I'd like to ask you, in hindsight, what do you think would have been
the next bit to read?
Is it the case that Wales should have had, in fact, a longer lockdown? It was 17 days, and we know, of course, the English lockdown was 4 weeks. Should Wales also simply have had a 4-week-long lockdown, or should it have had its lockdown earlier?
That's up to it to decide.
It was striking that we ended up really doing.
You want to be devolved and then take no responsibility for fucking or account for fucking what decisions you do make.
Of how the UK tended to
then you send someone in like this to fucking argue the point. I was ours bigger than yours. Fucking Nora. Next.
Thank you.
Go and make some
So
fucking
I'd like to ask you now
cakes
about clarity in
fucking
messaging.
hell, play with the grandkids,
And
man.
one of the points
Fucking
that you
hell.
made in your evidence yesterday was that clarity and unity of messaging was very important.
No, it was totally,
And I'd
didn't
like to
need
ask
it
you
at
about
all.
the
It was
change of
fucking
message
worthless. There's
from
no
the
point
UK
talking to
government
anybody.
stay at
Just
home
tell them
to
all
stay
fibs.
alert, and how that was handled.
Right, yeah.
And by way of context to the question,
Right.
the change was related to the route out of lockdown. And if I could ask to pull up on the screen, please, the document INQ 000256846.
Oh dear, what's she gonna fucking try and twist? She's already tried to twist what part of it she's gonna fucking apply to what, right?
Thank you very much. So what you see there is a record compiled by the Principal Private Secretary of the First Minister for Wales.
Like some bod in the back end of Welsh government
dated the
that
8th
nobody
of the 5th,
fucking knows.
2020. And it's a record of a meeting with Mr. Gove on the 8th of May of
Boris
the
knows fuck all
devolved
about.
administration's first ministers. And it precedes the COBRA meeting, which was on the 10th of May, which dealt with the announcement or discussion prior to the announcement of the road out of lockdown.
God, she's gone so far down so many different side roads. I'm not sure what county we're in.
Question that I'd like to ask you, having
What's the matter, love? Get on with it.
So first of all, we have the text key points from Call Today with CDL and FM's Scotland and NI, and obviously the Welsh First Minister was present as well. And first bullet point, COBRA expected Sunday afternoon. A little bit further down the page, recognition that different jurisdictions may move at different pace depending on progress of disease and practicalities, for example, different school calendars, but this does not undermine Four Nations approach. Then a little further down, if we go to the bullet point, the penultimate bullet point, DAs emphasised keeping core stay-at-home message. Gove will reinforce with PM. And then CDL summarised, recognition that different pace of change reflects devolution and pace of disease. He will make sure we have time to contribute.
Who put devolution into that?
And then finally, we'll talk to PM.
Fucking what a load. You can't work with people that are like that.
It's obvious, of course, from that document, Mr. Johnson, just to confirm that the devolved administrations wanted to stay with the stay-at-home message at that time. Thank you. And if I could now ask for this next document to be pulled up, please. It's INQ 000216537.
So why did they come out early then?
This is a record that has been compiled of the COBRA
So you were 28 and they were 17.
May. This is
Who made the decision to fucking let them out? So I guess get the Welsh government in here, shall we?
And
where's the Welsh government? Where's that lanky thing with glasses that speaks really slowly like a fucking old woman, but he's a bloke?
And just very briefly,
fucking
some of the observations
twat.
that are recorded that were made. The issue about messaging
relating to the change
of message from stay at home to stay alert was raised by the First Minister for Scotland.
Honey, what's your fucking point, love? You're fucking gibbering wobblish off your fucking lips, innit?
Administration.
Just stop fucking diseasing the place with your vomited fucking fecal fucking verbality, eh?
That nothing will appear in Scotland.
What's your fucking point? Stop reading the thing. Right.
And then in the next paragraph,
another paragraph, next paragraph. What's the point?
He makes some observations.
Right. So what?
It's fair to say that the summary of what he's saying is that he's summarising the merits of the change to stay alert. He says, stay alert encourages people to change behaviour and permissions. It has polled well. Monday into Tuesday, we will start national advertising to start to change behaviours.
Right. What's
and then
your point,
if we
love?
look a little bit further on,
so
it refers to, in the next paragraph, to the...
Do you see why people don't get on with women of a certain age and they end up getting divorced, and then these women are on HRT?
There would be no paid ads on TV.
Either alcoholics or cocaine addicts.
Messages of the Scottish Government.
What is your point,
they will deconflict messaging as far as possible. We can move forward as four nations. Now is the moment to recalibrate messaging. And then further text relating to what you then went on to say.
What's your point?
The question that I'd like to ask, arising out of looking at those passages,
all of them,
as you can recall, what did the UK government do to make sure that the change of message took account of the fact that the devolved administrations were not changing their message? They wanted to stay with stay at home as the main message. And what did the plan to deconflict amount to?
Well, if I may say so, and thank you very much for taking us through all this. I think you're rather eloquently illustrating one of the problems that we had.
See, and this is the other thing. Now
You're
is fucking polishing her knob.
There was
Put her knob down, Boris. Stop polishing the thing. Tell her to shut the fuck up and ask the fucking English question. That ain't got 14 convolutions in it.
Certainly,
what's her fucking point?
Felt that the people have been through an awful
Do you
lot.
think Wales are capable of making a decision?
By the public to get the
Well, they're devolved, they're supposedly. Why are they not?
To know whether they
So they just want to shift blame when it's applicable?
We wanted to have
not take responsibility?
A message to allow people to go back to work if they could, and to get things going because of the very serious harms that we had seen. And now,
it's like they want to put blame whichever way round.
As you rightly
oh, you
say,
locked us down. Why did you lock everybody down?
Other parts of
you opened up. Why did you open up?
They had a slightly different
approach. You were fucking moaning. You were locked down and complaining. You had no money and businesses closing. People's lives being fucked up by it.
To get a message that everybody could agree upon.
Yes, and a message wasn't agreed on. That's clear, isn't it? There wasn't agreement about the move to stay alert.
See the way she says that, isn't it?
The board administrations, as you've
taught
confirmed,
fucking behaviour that.
With stay at home.
It's actually abusive behaviour.
What did the UK government do? Did it plough ahead with stay alert,
domineering,
regardless, with very little adjustment? Or did it do all that could sensibly be done to make sure that there was, and you've emphasised the need for clarity, that there was as much clarity as possible so that people who lived in each of the four nations
Honey, go home and bake some cakes.
Did the UK government do all it could
go and pick the
sensibly
kids
do in
up
order
from
to bring
school
about
or
that
something?
outcome?
Just, fuck's sake.
The difficulty was, I think
we thought we'd all sit in each other's fucking. We thought we'd all sit in our fucking bedrooms and not talk. We thought, no, I'm not going to see that geezer. I don't like the look of him. I'm not going to talk to him. That'll be a good idea, won't it? That's what we did. We did that. Is that what you want him to fucking say? I went to Barbados and sat on my thumb and drank a fucking mojito with my fucking toes. Do you know what I mean? What the fuck does she want him to say? What a bollocks and fucking waste of time fucking shitey question. And all the crap before it. She just wasted about 20 minutes of my life.
In the UK government as a whole. And
fucking hell.
I sympathise
literally
with that.
Why I can't get on with people.
Why people felt like that, and I think that went very much with the grain of a lot of public opinion. But we also had to try to reflect the fact that
I end up looking at people
we got the R down below 1, and there was no point in doing that unless you were going to try to not just to.
He's very good not to say the Welsh government wouldn't get their shit in a sock. Welsh government couldn't get their shit in a sock one way or the other, and whatever we fucking did, they fucking had some fucking MP moan about it and complain about it the other way, which is what you're now attempting to present to me with whatever answer I fucking give you back, love.
The difficulty that we had.
So stick your answer up your ass. The question was bollocks.
Messaging that was divergent across the UK.
Well, Mr. Johnson,
I think it would have been. Frankly,
I'm afraid there's no more time.
It would have been better.
I have to finish.
Yeah. It would have been better to
get
have
her off.
A unified.
Yeah, get her off,
Mum.
I
appreciate.
Get her off, Mum.
And I can from all the questions
Mum, get her off, Mum. Boris, stop moving your fucking rubber, mate.
Sensitivities that raises in the.
Stop rolling rubber around your gums. Come on.
Doing this that doesn't tread on people's toes, but produces a unified answer.
The UK government itself needed to be clear, didn't it? You'd agree with that?
And the UK government was clear. The problem was that within the UK, we had
these people, we just had three people,
perfect right,
three people I couldn't stand to work with.
Policies that were divergent.
Thank you very much,
These people run and manage
and we can't have too long a day today. So could everybody else who's coming afterwards please stick to their time limits. Miss Mitchell. Miss Mitchell's over there, Mr.
Yeah.
Miss Mitchell, come on. Hello, lady friend. How you diddling? What you diddling? What's she going to ask him? What do you reckon? Do you reckon that was a good use of fucking time available to the nation
Mr.
to
Johnson,
fucking analyse this shit? Is that a good question to ask, or is it just a fucking load of tripe again? Oh
in his
God,
evidence to inquiry, Lord Edward Udney Lister was asked about a chain of emails where the First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, was requesting a telephone call with you. And this was on the 5th of March 2020, an important date because it was the day that COVID was added to the list of notifiable diseases. So it was a landmark day.
Great, good for you.
An answer to asking why there was a reluctance to have the First Minister contact you, Lord Edward Udney Lister gave the following evidence, and this is from the transcript of 7th November 2023, page 105. Well, I mean, as you can see from the exchange of emails, the meeting took place. So
now this woman's a Scot, so she obviously hates his fucking guts just because he's Conservative, and she's probably fucking SNP or some shit, or paid to be there by the SNP party, right? Yeah, what do you reckon? What do you reckon? Shit like that does go down, you know.
Is this a fair characterisation of the relationship between you and the First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon?
Oh, I'm sorry, Eddie said that.
Nicholas.
Actually,
it said Nicholas as well. Nicholas.
Whatsoever towards the First Minister of
Nicholas
Scotland. When I talked to her, we've
time check at 45:45. Yeah, Nicholas Sturgeon, the little boy from Scotland.
Is it odd that such a close and senior person working for you got that impression?
Where's my camper van?
Well, I think that.
Where's my motorhome?
Let's put it this way:
she's just going to hate his guts and use it to attack him, right?
They weren't
politically. Fucking just make him feel awkward and shit.
There was a certain amount of
see how this country works, man. It don't.
The SNP and me as
put
the
fucking
Prime
load
Minister.
of twats
I think
up there chatting
like
fucking
to
pony.
everything that they've said about me over the years. But
let's just focus on these particular questions. You say you had plenty of opportunity to meet the leaders of the devolved administration.
Well, they could have phoned me or WhatsApp me, couldn't they? Zoom me. What's the matter with them? They're too busy getting drunk with their friends on the golf course.
If it were to be correct that you had a certain degree of reluctance to meet with the First Minister,
why would that be?
Does that play
what do you mean by
meet
anyway?
Few meetings.
Well, call me, give me a ring, email me. What's your fucking problem?
The reasons for all this.
How about their neglect of duty? Let's do that one.
I think
was there neglect of duty from the devolved government ministers to communicate effectively? Can't put it all on communication works both ways.
Throughout the pandemic, and genuinely, my relations with her have always been friendly and professional. I think the reasons for the approach that we took was, as I've been saying to others, that I thought a grown-up way of doing this that would take the steam out of things, keep things focused on the needs of the UK public would be to manage it in the way that we did.
And why would, as you say, taking the steam out of things, why would that require Mr. Gove to be appointed to the role?
Well, I think, as I say in my statement, I think he was well suited to the job of bringing people together, hearing people's opinions, conciliating, without, people who are not necessarily my number one political fans, feeling the need to chip paint off the government.
Mr. Johnson, you say, I don't need this up, but you say at paragraph 191 of your statement that you've given to this inquiry that sometimes when you had to make political decisions about what was going to happen with the country, sometimes decisions were urgent and needed to be made extremely quickly, which could present a challenge. Either we would need to convene a COBRA, invite the DAs to a cabinet meeting or a UK government subcommittee meeting at which their role was not always completely clear, or we would need to take a decision ourselves and bring the DAs on board. None of this was ideal.
Now, as we've seen from this inquiry as it's taken place, a lot of government in the modern day appears to be done by way of very fast means of communication: text, email, WhatsApps, phone, video conferencing. Why do you consider that consulting the DAs would have prevented urgent decision making?
I'm sure there could have, in an ideal world, perhaps we could have found a way of doing it. My concern
no point telling them before you know, is there?
The DAs would understandably and use their legitimate prerogatives to do things differently, and from time to time to come out of what were meant to be confidential meetings and understandably want to talk to their own media within the DAs about what was going on and to explain the position. Now, I think the inquiry needs to reflect upon this, and it's not for me to say what the inquiry needs to reflect on, but I've found that it was a difficulty during the conduct of the pandemic. The virus doesn't respect any borders within the UK. The virus doesn't respect administrative boundaries.
With respect,
we saw this problem with the tiering approach. I think that we need to think as far as we possibly can about ways of getting a unified message, and I say that with maximum respect to the DAs and to their.
I'm coming on to the issue of messaging. That will be a chapter I will develop. But at the moment, I would like to stay with the issue of how to interact with the DAs in the times of, for example, a pandemic. You have talked about there need to be a structure that should be put in place to allow for consultation between the UK government and the devolved administrations during emergency situations. And you have indicated that what you would like is a leak-proof integrated system. Can you help the inquiry as to how that might be done?
Not at present, no, because I think it's very difficult, and it may be that it's a contradiction in terms, but that's the ideal.
It is certainly, I think, been said earlier in the inquiry that government leaks.
It does. But what you don't typically have in government is a mixture of politicians who are, by definition, adversarial to each other and wanting to remove each other from office in the sense they belong to different parties. And
but Mr. Johnson,
that's one of the complexities that the pandemic threw up.
The questions that were being discussed in these meetings weren't about that sort of thing. They were about dates and times and what should be used, whether we should use masks, or there wasn't a necessity or scope for that in those meetings.
I think what happened was that every topic rapidly became political because, of course, different constituencies in different parts of the country had different views about things, and that's the sad reality. I'm not saying this problem is insoluble. I'm just saying that within the time that we had available, it was hard to manage. I thought the best way to manage it, given the urgency, was to try to take the heat out of things, to get CDL to bring people together, to explain and to conciliate, and if necessary, I would come in and talk to people as much as I could.
We've heard that, Mr. Johnson. I wonder if I can have inquiry number 000136751 up, please. This is an email from Imran Shafi to Chris Whitty, and it relates to a meeting on the 14th of March. There was a meeting on the 14th of March involving yourself, the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, CLD, the CMO, the CSA, and other senior officials. There was no DA presence at this meeting, so no one from Scotland, Wales or Northern Ireland, which discussed the need for a cross-government signed-off package on shielding the vulnerable and elderly. It was noted that the decision on when to implement this package would be based on advice from the CMO and the CSA. The advice was to include how to handle the DAs. And you can see that in respect of the particular.
What is she going on and on and on like this previous person? What's her fucking question? I'm just zoned out.
What do you understand by the phrase "how to handle the DAs"?
Well, I think that the inquiry will know very well.
You walk in in a gimp mask with a ball in your mouth and a whip, and you go, party on.
Timetable of
you bend over the desk.
It's coming.
Handle them. What do you mean?
The very day.
You shuffle them around the table in a clockwise direction, and then stop the music, and whoever gets sit down has to make the tea.
We're behind in the curve, and we have to take very urgent action.
Mr. Johnson,
so what this email reflects is the view of my private secretary Imran that we've got to get onto the DAs as fast as possible.
Well, what is meant how to handle the DAs? I mean, you say it's his view, but you were there at the meeting, and this meeting concluded with action points, and it's the first action point.
Well, the question would have been who to ring, how to set the ball rolling, how to bring people together.
Earlier on in your evidence yesterday, you were asked about mass gatherings. And I think it would be fair to say that broadly you accepted that it had been the wrong call to allow mass gatherings to go ahead. Is that correct?
Well, I think what I said was that the advice on mass gatherings was that it was paradoxical in the sense that it was counterintuitive, because the scientific advice was that they were banning mass gatherings could be worse because you would drive people into smaller locations, pubs and so on, where the transmission would be even higher. That was the logic.
I think Mr. Whitty described it as, in a sense, technically correct, but logically incoherent to the general public.
I think that it was put to me that it was logically coherent in the sense that we wanted to reduce the to do what we could to reduce transmission, and it was put to me that banning mass gatherings itself would not really help because for the reason I've given.
Can I have the document inquiry number 000129230? This is a WhatsApp message from yourself dated 11/3, 2020.
Won't be long. Are you enjoying yourselves? Which one do you like?
I spoke to Chris Whitty at length about
whose side are you on? Yeah? Who's talking logic?
He thinks it's a really simple way
None of them, both of them, all of them, or fucking neither.
Based on from Monday, if you're ill, stay home. He's going to make sure that by Cobra, we're in a good position. However, he also thinks the Scots are going soft on mass gatherings, and the Nicola has decided she definitely wants to move on some totemic cancellations. Now, the reason I flagged this up is this is being used as a possible reason for Scotland just doing things differently. Would it be fair to say that, in fact, in retrospect, the correct call was to call off those gatherings and to send the correct signal to the public that this was an important thing and everybody had to be very careful about their health?
I can't say how much of a difference it would have made at that stage. What I've tried to tell you is the reasons why we, at a very early stage in our understanding of the pandemic, had gone for one option, and what you've clearly got here is for what we thought were sound epidemiological reasons, and what you've got is Scotland using its prerogatives to do something different. Whatever the rights and wrongs of the epidemiology, you have a divergence of approach.
Indeed, and what I'm asking you is retrospectively.
The risk is that in the end, you start to undermine public understanding.
Indeed, the inquiry has heard that and understands it. What I am asking you to reflect upon is, retrospectively, was that the right call?
I can't say. I think that what certainly wasn't helpful throughout was to have different messages.
Well, that's exactly the matter I'm coming on to. The issue of differential messaging is one which has peppered your evidence so far. In your statement at page 30, I don't need that brought up, but in your statement at page 30, paragraph 126, it says, looking back, we should have thought much harder about the legal basis for the measures proposed. There's a respectable argument that we should have used civil contingencies legislation rather than public health. By allowing for at least the appearance of divergence in approach between the various parts of the UK, we were risking considerable public confusion and frustration when clarity of message was crucial. Now, given, as you've already identified, the prerogative of devolved administrations, in particular Scotland, where health is a devolved matter in Scotland, where Scotland has access to its own data, its own government, its own CMO, its own DCMO, and it has, I suppose, the best view on what's happening in its own area, i.e. the different spread of COVID perhaps between the Scottish Islands and London. Are your comments fair or proper?
My comments on...
Is your comment that the appearance of divergence in approach between the various parts of the UK we're risking considerable public confusion and frustration?
Well, I think that obviously that's for the inquiry to decide. But I think I'm really grateful to you for raising all this. But I was worried that there was a continual dissonance of messaging, and I was worried that would do two things. It would confuse people, and that in the end it would undermine people's confidence in the message. One or other of these points had to be
and I would like to,
which one was it?
And I would like to take you to that. First of all, I've got two issues left. First of all, the stay alert message. You say clarity and consistency are important, you are sensitive to this. That the messaging was so important and you were concerned that people found it hard to follow. The fact was, the message was stay at home, protect the NHS, save lives, and it was changed by the UK government by itself to stay alert. Did you have any communications with the devolved administration saying that we're going to change it?
Well, I think the previous council for, I believe it was the Welsh bereaved families, indicated that there had been a consultation about that.
Had there been if I may put this to you, if there was such a meeting and conversations were had, why was consistency of messaging not an issue when the UK government decided to change its advice, but the other three devolved administrations didn't?
I think perhaps I could argue
all the time.
Pandemic changed and the virus changed and its virulence, and we had to change our response. And
I think the difficulty.
I think that the just to complete the point, I think the problem was that we would find sometimes that there was a difference in message. I don't want to make too much heavy weather of this, but I think sometimes it was a problem.
That brings me to my last point, but just before I leave the issue of stay alert, Professor Halpern has given evidence to this inquiry that the phrase that was changed was so bad because it told you to worry and it didn't tell you what to do. He described it as the worst combination, and I would respectfully allow you to reflect upon that. If I can take you on to my final point, and it's in relation to a report, an expert report, which has been heard detail of in this inquiry by Professor Ailsa Henderson.
Thanks for joining,
it's
everyone.
About confusing messages. Now, you have said in your evidence that messaging was incredibly important. Messaging in the end was the most important tool we had to deal with the virus. I don't think we should deprecate the importance of messaging. So at the heart of what you were doing, messaging was a vitally vitally critical tool in relation to the pandemic.
Oh, it was a girl.
If we can have before us inquiry number 000269372, the report by Professor Ailsa Henderson, page 49, paragraphs 151 and 152.
Yeah, okay, right. Great, yeah. And what? Go on.
This is about advice given by the UK government over communications with the public.
Oh, I don't
If
have to
about
take that, just
halfway
advice.
down the paragraph, it starts an analysis of the text prepared speeches. An analysis of the
Fucking
text
load
prepared
of
speeches
waffle.
throughout 2020 shows that those speaking on behalf of the UK government did an incomplete job of outlining the territorial scope of their data, information or guidance. In the first months, there was almost no mention of devolved administrations or their first ministers. There was little attempt to outline what applied UK-wide and what applied only to England. The phrase "this country" was employed frequently to mean England or Great Britain or the United Kingdom. In general, spokespeople were slightly more likely to clarify if a UK-wide matter applied to the whole of the UK. And it goes on to give an instance.
And who wrote this then?
Given by your own admission the critical nature of the communications and the fact that messaging was the most important tool the UK had to deal with the virus, was sufficient consideration
Why have you not allowed your comments to the bottom of this fucking inquest?
That the geographical, jurisdictional of their data and information and guidance was made clear.
Well, I did my level best during the press conferences to try to make clear where the restrictions applied to. And I remember several times saying that they applied only in England and trying to restrict what we were saying. But I think,
well, Mr. Johnson, I have one example.
You can't blame ministers for talking about this country.
Yeah.
When that's common parlance. And if I may say,
it's just an advice note,
on
right?
behalf of the UK government to all the people
Yes.
that they are getting it. So if they say this country, it has to be made clear which country it refers to. For example,
we're all
yes,
one
everybody.
example,
Everybody
on
the King's responsible for. It's the King's government.
Measures applied to England only, and that's the one occasion.
Wales has only devolved so far. Everyone, come on, you're not
for the British public. What was needed was clarity, and isn't it, in fact,
There's
that the
slashes
problem was
between those
that
words,
the difficulty
right?
was created by the UK government.
How's it written
Later
on the
on in this
document
report,
again?
it says that notwithstanding
commas,
efforts throughout
slashes
2020,
between them.
the UK COVID press briefings repeatedly failed to clarify rules governing school closures, rules for social gathering, funds for local authorities,
Which is exactly
funds for
the reason
coronavirus
we never
community support,
progress
the renewal
anywhere,
task
right?
force, dedicated funding for mental health, bike voucher schemes,
Yeah, all them
and
things
case
he's
marshals
thinking
on
about,
rail works,
right?
the
And
reopening
you're
of car
worried about
showrooms and
what?
other retails were all England specific. And they say this is the report goes on saying
Were they?
this is particularly
Was that
important
'cause you-
as in some instances
You were
government
kicking up a
spokespeople
fuss
were
about
calling
World
for
Cardiff's
individuals to
this and
change their
fucking
behaviour,
Edinburgh's
and as
that.
such rules would not have applied throughout the UK. Indeed, it was advice about rules rather than data that suffered from a particular
So who's
lack of
convoluting
clarity.
it? Is it you
So,
that aren't
given
doing what the
is said in
teacher's
this report,
saying,
Mr. Johnson,
right? And you're kicking
did
off and
the
saying,
UK
no, I'm going to
government
go
fail
and
to
stand at the
properly
other end of the
implement
fucking
most
playing
important
field,
tool the UK
right?
government
I'm
had
not
to
doing
deal with the
anything anyone
virus?
says. I'm going to sit in the
think
fucking
that if you
sandpit
look
on my own.
at the public understanding of what we were
What the
trying
fuck?
to say, it was remarkable how clearly people got the message, considering
Yeah, get the fucking
extreme
message.
complexity
Fucking
of the
playing the
rules,
game or what?
and considering the fact that there was divergence, as
Mr.
I've said,
Johnson, given-
across the DAs.
given the
what
complexity-
I think what you've got here is a
Gonna say, fucking,
in all this
the
conversation,
land of
a perfect
Eng
example
is
of how
fucking
different messaging can be
been
confusing
fucking infiltrated
for
by
ministers, for people
oh God,
across
how
the
far do you
whole
want
of
to
the
take
UK.
it
The
back?
virus
Fucking
thinks whatever
hell.
the SNP may
Oh,
think,
England's
the
an
virus thinks
occupied
this is all one country.
territory.
I'm
Fuck
not
And
asking.
that's the reality.
I'm not
Seriously.
asking questions about the SNP. I'm asking questions about you and your minister's messaging during the pandemic. You have said that what it was extremely complex issues.
Yeah,
and there
'cause
may
you
be
keep
no doubt
arguing
that was
about it,
so,
love, and
but
fucking
wouldn't that be
spending
all the more
ages
reason
talking
that
about
you made
the fact that
absolutely
you've been
clear every
arguing
time you
about
stood
it
up
and you
and
couldn't
spoke
make up your
to
mind, so
the
somebody
four
had
nations,
to in the
that you
end
made it
because you wouldn't
absolutely
stop
clear
fucking
what the
kicking
rules were
and
for
screaming
each
in the
nation
sandpit.
in each country.
Well, I could have done that. I think that, and that might indeed
Fucking hell. It's like herding
a way
cats with
forward.
the
It may
shits,
be
isn't
that you've
it?
hit on
Eh?
a solution,
Diarrhea-ridden
which is that,
cats.
in future,
Yeah.
it should be entirely the job of the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom
Fucking all over the
to
place,
announce
all of them.
the different rules that apply in
I want eating,
different
I want
places
food, I
across,
want drink, I want to have a
UK,
fucking shit, I want to
rather
be
than
let
having
out, I
those-
want to
those
cuddle, I
messages
want to
burn
fucking give
or
me some
anticipate. I happen
love,
to
give me
think
stroke,
that
where's my
that would
blanket, I
still
need to
be
play with a ball.
immensely complicated,
Fucking
and people
hell.
wouldn't understand quite why
can't
there were
satisfy
differences.
all of
I'm
the
saying
people all of the
is
time,
that
and no cunt shuts the gate. Everyone, anyone,
there were
someone, and no one. It's all your fucking
legitimate
job.
democratic
You're all
desire
ignorant to
of
shutting the
the
gate.
DAs to have their own
That's what it
approach
is,
to public health.
literally
I
as well.
totally
That's where we're
get
fucking
that,
at,
and I
man.
support
Shut the
that.
gate, innit?
But in this
Fucking
particular
shut the gate.
context of a brutal, pitiless pandemic, there had to be some way of helping the public with greater unity of messaging. That's all I'm saying.
And the best way to have such, the best way is not to look for unity, but to look for clarity. Would that be correct?
I think that clarity follows unity.
I think that we've gone far enough on that.
We're talking fucking Roman fucking bollocks now. Right, okay, everybody, there we go. Sorry, I'll bring myself back in the room. Where are we coming? There we are, everybody. Thanks for joining me live and direct here from the UK. I'm Dodgy Git. I've taken my jumper and tie off. It's getting a bit warm in here. I should go and turn that flipping thing off. Thanks for joining me. I hope you understand where we're coming from making this show. This is 2 days worth of fucking Boris tracking, isn't it? They're coming back in a minute, so we're gonna edit this thing as basically, I just do fucking live shows, man. If you stayed with me this fucking long, you'll see how Dodgy Git show works. I've got 100 odd freaking other videos there, hour each or so long. Yeah, we discuss all kinds of things: politics, engineering, mathematics, history. Yeah, all kinds of different things. But I'm here spending a couple of days covering Boris. I'm completely independent. I have no funding whatsoever. I'm sat in my own premises. My own telly's over there, and that's my chairs over there. Yeah. I just do it by myself. Yeah, for myself. Really, I started this for myself. Views, say what I think. Just talk to the camera instead of upsetting people around me. Yeah. Maybe find people out there that are either like-minded or fucking don't like me as well. Yeah. But we get a few views here and there. And, our main thing at the moment is to get my subscriptions up. We want to get our subscribers up. So if you want to help out the channel and help out the Dodgy Git here, then subscribe to the channel. You'll get notified when I come back. I do loads of shorts. Shorts most mornings. Loads and loads of shorts there, all different things. Some might upset you, some might not. Yeah, is this a form of art? Dunno. Yeah, dunno. All a matter of opinion, right? Anyway, I'm gonna bugger off. I'll see you in about 10 minutes. Come back for part 4. You can get straight back here by getting notified. Yeah, it's automated. Yeah, it's automated. All you got to do is ding the bell. Ding the bell, subscribe there. It's free. Yeah, there ain't no sign up, no nothing. Yeah, you can come and join me live and direct in the chat room. You can put your comments in the comments box, unlike the news feeds. Yes. So if you're watching after the event, you can put your comments there, and you can see what other people have put, if anything. Yeah, please do comment. I'm Dodgy Git. I'm sharing my love with you, so you got some love to share around the people around you. Yeah. See you in 10 minutes when they come back, and they're part 4 on day 2. See you in a minute. Bye.